All right guys, we're here today with the 2021 Mazda MX-30. Now, similar to the electric that we've recently reviewed, this one here is a hybrid. Now, to be really honest, if you're comparing this car and considering it, I wouldn't even bother comparing it to hybrids and just compare it to every other car on the market, as this does operate a little bit differently to most hybrids, which we'll touch on in a second. But as you can see, it's a very funky car. It's got plenty of quirks and oddities and different styling, and we actually really like it. So let us show you a little bit more about the car, and hopefully you like it as well. So with the Mazda MX-30 in the hybrid, what we have is a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine. Then the hybrid component is a 24-volt battery system, which we'll explain in a second. From the petrol component, it's 114 kilowatts and about 200 Newton meters of torque. What that means is really just plenty of power to get around town, enough power to get up hills and kind of at highway speeds, but definitely no excess power. What would have been nice to see is the engine in the newer Mazda 3 range. However, still a very nice engine, still a very nice drive. Now the hybrid system is a little bit different in that the hybrid system will power the electrics of the vehicle and capture some of the wasted power, so to speak, as you start slowing down or you take your foot off the brake. However, it's not a conventional hybrid in that it will actually power the car. So fuel consumption numbers definitely don't align with a hybrid, which is why we just mentioned that we certainly wouldn't consider it a hybrid. And if you're comparing it to other cars on the market, just compare it to being a car rather than being a hybrid model. Certainly from a fuel consumption point, 6.9 litres per 100 is Mazda's official rating. We've found anywhere from about 8.5 to 9.5 litres per 100 around town. However, this car's done 5,000 Ks as a press car. Once you get a car and you've worn it or run it in, you'll usually start to see some better fuel gains after about 10,000-15,000 Ks. All right guys, so in terms of styling on the outside, really appealing styling, and the great thing is it's so different to most of the Mazda models and just most of the cars out there at the moment. So you get these nice, really cool, different headlights. They look a little bit Transformer-ish. You get the daytime running lights down the bottom. The one thing that would have been cool as a nice to have rather than because it's a bad thing is if the daytime running light, instead of being down here, would have been kind of featured around there and almost given it a nice kind of angry eye type look. Would have added to the aggressiveness / funkiness of the front. Obviously the grille is a little bit smaller than the other Mazda models, but also most of its competitors. So definitely makes it look kind of cool and kind of different. So now that we're done with the outside, let us show you the inside, and you'll see that this car is just as funky on the inside as on the outside. So being the touring model, guys, this actually gets the smart entry and smart exit, which is really, really handy. On top of that, you do get a key. Obviously, if it's in your pocket or handbag, you don't even have to worry about it. So just come up to the car, place your hand there, it opens the door. And being the MX-30, it also gives you these really cool freestyle doors that open up and give you a bit of access into the rear. As we come through to the inside, you get this nice recycled material on the doors. So you get the Maztex leather down here, which is a faux leather. You get this premium material, which is all soft touch here. These are recycled fiber materials at the top. And the great thing to know about this car is all of the interior materials are actually recyclable as well. As we come through to the inside, you have these cool, funky Maztex seats, which we'll show you in a sec, and they're a full electric seat as well. All right, so with the interior, guys, first things first, driver comfort and position. Mazda's got this really, really well down pat. So seat is electronically adjustable. If you share this car with someone else, you also have preset memory seats settings, which just means they have to come into the car, push a button, and it recalls their seating position. Now with the steering wheel, great thing about this is it is reach and tilt adjustable, unlike some cars that for whatever reason still only have a tilt adjustment in 2021. So that's a really nice touch from Mazda. It has this really nice smooth premium material on the steering wheel that feels really nice and soft. You do have auto on and off headlights as standard. All the controls on the steering wheel are here. So you have your lane departure alert, your radar cruise control. Now with the radar cruise control, it is a all-speed cruise control, which with stop and go, as Mazda call it. Basically what that means is if you're following a car in front, as it slows down and comes to a complete stop, this car will also bring you to a complete stop, and then all you need to do is tap up to reset once the car in front of you goes, and it will automatically take off. You can adjust the autonomous emergency braking and radar cruise control distances directly via the steering wheel, and that will set the different trigger points and alerts when it comes to that. The cruise control side of things can be activated into a standard cruise control as well, and you also have your blind spot monitoring in this car. Reverse camera is standard, however you can get a 360-degree camera, which will add 2 cameras, one to each mirror, and then a camera for the front. That is an optional extra. And as part of that, you can then also option the front cross traffic alert, which is similar to the rear cross traffic alert in this car, where if a car's coming in a parallel manner to where you're parked, as you're trying to take off or reverse, it will give you a warning to let you know that potentially you need to have another look. Heads-up display, super clear and just really nice to see. So that is standard in this car, as well as then a nice digital display for the driver right in the center, and 2 analog displays on the outer sides of this car as well. Now with the infotainment, central display and controls, you have a really unique and quirky setup, which is also really nice. So you have a nice beautiful color display at the top. This displays your CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as the inbuilt satellite navigation. Down here you have the actual controls in this little dial that control everything there. And from there you have this color display down here, which is touchscreen. Now this controls all your air conditioning controls. Gear selector is pretty traditional, so all you do is push on that, drop it down, reverse, neutral, drive, and then you have the paddle shift on the actual steering wheel, which will help you control the actual gears. Electric park brake is standard on this car, as well as the auto hold function. So the auto hold, all it does, as you come to a stop at the lights or at any stop, as long as you've got auto hold selected, you put your foot on the brake. The minute that the foot comes off the brake, it holds that braked position until you put your accelerator on when you go to take off. And a push button start is standard on this car as well. Worth mentioning, you do have a couple of driver modes in this car as well. So you do have Sport, Eco, and a couple of others, which would have been nice to see in the electric model, but this isn't the electric model and it definitely has it, which is great. Sunglass holder at the top, as well as a couple of courtesy lights. And that's basically about it for this side of the car, and we'll show you the other side in a second. Now, as you can tell, guys, the interior materials chosen for this car are a little bit quirky, and none more so than the actual cork that's used down the bottom here and on the underneath of the butterfly center console. Now, these caps cover the cup holders, but why are they using cork? Well, it pays homage to Mazda's origins. Mazda actually used to be a cork company before they got into cars. So what they did is they sold that cork business. That same cork business is now providing the cork for this car. And from memory, it's about a 200-year-old cork tree where this particular cork has been sourced. Cork for a material is actually pretty hard wearing. And not just that, it is really environmentally friendly. So I think that's where Mazda's gone for that quirkiness once again with the use of cork in the materials. However, you know, it's an acquired taste. In terms of the interior, there is plenty of space, but as you can tell, there's no actual cover just here, unless these cup holders are raised, and then you have that little covering there. To be really honest, most of the time you're probably going to have them raised anyway, so it's probably a non-issue. But it is a little bit of an intriguing design from Mazda for that part there. So guys, down here you get 2 USB ports. Now one of these USB ports powers the cable that will power your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Would have been nice to have wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, but it is what it is. As part of that, it has this nice little resting point, and once again a little bit more cork down the bottom. Now the all important question, can you fit in the back? So as you can see, a little bit tight getting in and out of the back. It does give you some electric controls in the rear, and those electric controls allow you to move the seat backwards and forwards to get in and out. But I want to just show you the driving position that I was physically in to see how much room is there as a driver and realistic day-to-day driving position. Once you get in, space is a bit of a premium in the rear, as you can tell. My knees are touching the sides. If I wanted to get them in, I can, and I can sit like a good little schoolboy at school back in the day. But it is a little bit tight. Headroom is actually not too bad if you're 5'10". Any taller than 5'10", you'd probably be a little bit uncomfortable because you'd be leaning your neck forward or trying to slide back. However, you can adjust the seats from the back to give you that extra room. In terms of the rear as well, the cool thing is you got these electric buttons directly behind here to get in and out, rather than having to rely on the driver to pull the handle from the front. Interior feels really comfortable in the rear apart from the lack of space. However, I have a feeling that this car really hasn't been designed to carry too many people on a daily basis. It really has been designed for the single or dual driver setup and passenger setup. One last thing to note on the rear, it does have 2 ISOFIX points if you do want to be brave and put some car seats in. One on the outer 2 seats of the particular car. Now, coming through to the rear, guys, you have these cool, aggressive tail lights as well, carrying on from the front headlight design. Really love it, especially when the tail lights are on. From the back, everything else is pretty straightforward. You do have rear parking sensors as standard. Reverse camera is standard also. And the best part about this, it has keyless entry and exit. So you can just walk up to the boot when you need to, open it up, and you're good to go. Now, in terms of the load capacity, guys, plenty of space in the rear. So a 311 litre boot capacity. What does that actually mean? Who knows? Like, why are we measuring it in litres? To be really honest, can it fit crap? Can it not? That's really all we want to know. You would probably be able to push to fit a full-size stroller in here or pram. You might get away with a stroller, but outside of that, that's probably your limits there. Plenty of space for suitcases though, and everything else in between. Seats do fold flat in the middle. And the great part about this is it actually comes with a space saver tire. Most of these small hatches are now coming with tire inflation kits, which means if you want to take this outside of the city for a weekend, you then have to run the risk of potentially needing to call a tow truck if you get a puncture or anything on the highway. So there you have it, guys. That's what we think about the MX-30 hybrid. We definitely think that you should go have a look at one. In terms of drivability, plenty of power to get up and down any hills around Brisbane. To be really honest, I think it's a cool, funky drive and something refreshing and different from the general small SUV market at the moment. As always, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Ask any questions, leave those in the comments, and we'll keep bringing you some great videos. Just let us know what else you'd like us to review.